over to you, Daniel. And
All right, awesome. So we're just going to get started here. This is the ISSIP team that we are presenting our project program closeout review. This is our final presentation of the semester, so it's been a good one so far. But jumping right in here, if I can figure out how to click to the next, there we go. The meeting goals and outlines. First, we're going to start by summarizing the project, just giving an overview of what we've done, the approach and the key results, and then detailing the design process, explaining methodology used to develop the final result. Then we're going to share our final findings and outcomes, and then we're going to move into a little bit of acknowledgments and feedback. So introduction, we standardized the onboarding process for ISSIP, like that was the main goal. We did this by developing three different onboarding procedures, one AI-led, one instructor-led, and a self-led. And all three of these use 30 key learning topics. We also created measures to receive feedback and collect data. We did this by pre-test, post-test, and then also making a Google form for feedback after people have taken it. And then we're working on a white paper that's almost complete. Hopefully we have that done by the end of the day, if not the end of the weekend. And then problem statement, I thought it would be fitting to do the start the meeting the same way we usually do for the weekly status updates. So our problem statement, we were to create three different onboarding processes for ISSIP, one being self-led, instructor-led, and AI-led. All three of these were to use three key topics with 10 individual learning items, adding up to 30 different topics. And then the material should be distributed within an hour.
So for this project, we had 5 key requirements. We had to keep the onboarding under an hour. We had to make sure all formats shared the same core content. We had to include both a pre and post test, ensure accessibility and engagement, and only use sponsor-approved materials. We also faced a few risks. The free ChatGPT user hit message limits, so we had to solve that by offering a 5 concept batch version. We also had to make sure users didn't skip the test, so we required a pre and post test screenshots. And for the instructor-led version, we improved the layout and added a few interactive elements to keep the users engaged.
Okay, so approach was one thing which was very important in this project because it helped us in reiterating our design, going over it once, time and time again, and getting to what we wanted in the end. So the approach given to us, a suggested approach given to us in class was to empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test, and deliver. We kind of strayed off of that. We had our platform selection to be Canva / PowerPoint for the instructor-led one, and we had Canvas for the self-paced one, which we were familiar with before, and we had OpenAI ChatGPT for the AI-guided one. Um, for our design logic for AI, it was interactive. It had structured prompts, and we used prompt engineering. Sorry for the typo there. We used prompt engineering to make it what it is today, make it within the limits, make it for both users, the ones with the paid subscription, the ones without it. And it was sourced from ISSIP books, the handbook, as well as the feedback we received, and much more. For the prototyping and iteration, we got weekly feedback from you, Jim, from the coach, and from the advisor. Um, we also had risk-based content adaptations. Okay, for the second phase of the approach, which was the testing, feedback, and finalization, you can see here on the right is some of the discussions we had in Canvas. We also had some quizzes incorporated. We had the pre-test, which people had to take, which Kay touched on earlier. For our alpha testing, we had internal runs focused on structure and clarity. We had the beta testing, which is real trials and surveys, which is shown. The Canvas pacing was also adjusted from the team, which we all took it, and as well as Paul's review. Um, the surveys helped refine the layout, tone, and interactive design. And finally, we constructed a VCRM matrix, which helped us validate coverage and consistency. And we also received weekly feedback from our sponsor, Jim, advisor Paul, and our coach, John.
Now we will dive into our results for our final deliverables. For our instructor leg, as we said before, we had easy to use slides with visuals that were added for engagement, and we tested it in a classroom setting. the Canvas course, which is the self-paced onboarding with videos and quizzes, an intuitive layout, and it works for all age groups. And then lastly, the AI onboarding course made with ChatGPT, real-time, personalized. It has quizzes, and it has feedback built into the flow for the user to engage with. Here are our showcase posters. On the left, we can see we displayed the prototypes for each of the 3 onboardings and also described our approach. And on the second poster, we discussed what were our results, our discussion, and our acknowledgements for this project. And we have a screenshot of the pretest and also a detailed example for the AI onboarding course. And here are our results based on the verification cross-reference matrix. We said that 5 out of the 7 core requirements were marked as pass, 2 were more marked partial, which was the under an hour goal to be met, but there were small users sample limits to validate, and then also the post-course feedback was insufficient to have full clarity. And then our results from this assessment is that all formats showed knowledge improvement based on comparing the pre and the post test, and that participants were able to engage well across all the platforms.
So now getting into some of the implications. So what we did was we successfully created a scalable, low-cost, and multi-format onboarding that caters to different groups of people and specific interests in how they learn. We only ended up spending about $11.19, and I think you could ask any one of us. I don't think that necessarily doing this project or looking back, we probably needed to even spend that much money, and we were able to build it mostly with free tools and university resources, kind of sticking with the goal of working for a nonprofit like ISSIP. We also developed one of the first AI-led onboarding systems based solely on real organizational documents using the ISSIP handbook and input from our sponsors. And we were also able to use AI to improve in that accessibility as well and catering it to the different learners. And we also created a clear path forward for ISSIP to expand training globally with minimal admin overhead. So just looking at our schedule, we're closing out. We're in our last phase, the deliver phase, almost completely closed out. A few things to finish up tonight, and then we should be almost completely finished. And then, of course, touching on the budget, we only ended up spending $11.19, which is incredible.
So, a special thank you to you, Jim, for your consistent guidance and support throughout this project. Your feedback played a huge role in shaping every part of our work. Thank you also to John Grease, our alumni coach, for keeping us organized and encouraging us to improve week after week. Thank you to Dr. Paul for your strategic insights that challenged us to think critically and improve our technical approach. And we also extend our thanks to the ISSIP community members who tested our materials and provided valuable feedback. And finally, thank you for all attendees who also tested our work. We truly appreciate your time and insights and support. Thank you. Any questions?
Great. Yeah, definitely get a few questions, but thank you so much. I think each of the courses, all 3 delivery modes were great. Super impressed with them. Really dives up, and we'll continue to build on the great foundational work that you've established here. What I'd like to do now is just ask each of you who are on the call to think about what you learned about artificial intelligence during this project that you think will be valuable. Maybe if it was surprising to you, maybe it was hard, but what you learned about AI that you think will be valuable in your future career. And that's first question. And the second question is, if you were starting this project right now, knowing everything that you know from doing it once, is there anything that you would do differently? So let me start with Daniel. And what did you learn about AI, Daniel? And what would you do differently?
Yeah, the one big thing I learned with AI is there was one thing that you said, and it has stuck with me throughout. And I was talking about this even in the presentation on Tuesday when we were at the BJC. I said you said don't let AI make you stupid, and I had to think about that for a second because I was like, what does that mean? Like, but the way I was using AI before, like I was just letting AI do all my work and letting it let me be stupid. And so the one big thing that I took away from this project was prompting AI and using AI to make not only me work more efficiently, but also making me smarter and making the community smarter. And so I think the prompting element of AI is the one thing that I'm going to take away, and using AI to make the prompts better. But
Great.
if I were to restart this course, now this one's a little bit more of a I would create more time for the testing phase. I feel like that was definitely one area where we lacked. I think if we were able to kind of follow your initial mantra, which was get it done and then test, or refine, I think that would have led to a better end product. But so yeah, just the testing. I would have tried to create more time for that.
Very good. Thank you, Daniel. Alex, you're next in my list. I'm just going to go down through the list. Alex, you're next. So, Alex, what did
All
you
right,
learn
well, I
about
would
AI?
definitely
And
say I think one of the most interesting things that I kind of learned definitely kind of coincides with what Daniel was saying about prompting. I think that typically people just use it for a simple question, almost like the way that they would use a Google search, where you're just kind of looking up a question and you're trying to get an answer to it. But I do think that the one thing I learned is that for a lot of things, you get out what you put into it. And I think AI is one of the biggest things that's very true for. The more that you write in a prompt, the more you're going to get out, the more specific it's going to be. Like for example, I mean, we had a 2-page prompt to build our AI. And that's, I mean, 2 pages is it's a lot of content. But you know what? It ended up building a really good platform that I think all of us are really proud to have created. So I think just like understanding the application of the phrase you get in what you put out is so applicable to AI.
very good. And anything you'd do different if you were restarting now?
When you first said it, I originally thought in my head, I'd probably say, I don't know if we really need to make the self-paced or the instructor-led because the AI was substantially better than the other two, I would say. I think that increasing education of why the AI is great and it's able to be accessible for different groups of people, I think that awareness would be a better thing to push than having the other options, just because I truly do think that the AI was substantially better than the other two. And not for lack of our effort at all, just
Yeah.
in terms of the accessibility and ease of catering it to specific groups of people.
Yeah, tuning and interaction. Yep, great. Thanks, Alex. Gonzalo, you're next on my list. What did
This
you learn about AI?
Yeah, from AI, I learned obviously prompting, learning that being able to write to ChatGPT exactly what you want in a way that it will understand and give you what you want is very important. And I also learned how to communicate conversationally, like going back and forth with it on specific, let's say, topics, because that was something that I used to struggle with. But with how we have been able to use ChatGPT now and AI, I think that has helped me in using it as a better tool. And then if I would restart the project now, I would definitely have started by doing the AI onboarding course first, because I think we were able to do the self-paced and the social leg pretty quickly, because it wasn't it wasn't difficult, as we already had ideas and we had professors to help us. But I think we put off the AI onboarding course a bit too long because we weren't sure how we were going to face it or do it. And I think if we would have started with that, then I think the rest of the project would have been a lot smoother.
Great. Thank you, Gonzalo. Caitlin, what did you learn and what would you do different?
So to me, I learned how versatile AI is. I used to think like it's easy for quick answers or learning something fast, but honestly, like it's so easy to just build your own AI and use the right prompt to just personalize what you need. Like it's not just for this project. You can use it in your everyday life. You can just personalize an AI for yourself. And honestly, also something that was so interesting was a professor came up to us and he told us, like we told him our idea and our project, and he was like, oh, like this gave me an idea to start giving my course through AI. And I was like, that's a genius idea, because we always go back and forth from Canvas to ChatGPT, and imagine it's all just in one platform. Like AI is just so like versatile for that reason. And yeah, like I feel like I realized also how intimidating the word AI is at first. When we first saw the project, we're like, oh my God, like we don't know how to code. Like, how are we gonna do this? And then I realized, no, you don't need to code. You just need to understand that AI is just in everywhere right now, and it's so easy to just adapt to it. Yeah.
What would you do different?
If I could do something differently, I would honestly just give us more time on the AI, because we could have developed it even more. Yeah, it was 2 pages, the prompt, but I genuinely feel like it could have been like 6 pages if we just had a bit more time.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Caitlin. And Adam,
Like,
last but not least, what did you learn about AI that you think will be valuable for your future use, and what would you do differently?
Okay, so I'm gonna start by answering your second question first. Um, I think using OpenAI, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Anthropic Claude, all of those, I think if we used those a bit more in combination, that would have been more effective, and that would have been a good combination. Maybe combining them in one platform, yes, and maybe we would have learned more about using each type of AI. I think we were a bit too focused on ChatGPT. Um, and I think to answer your first question, I realized that AI isn't just like, oh, plug a value in, plug this in, and go for it. I think it's like constantly refining our results. That's one thing I learned. And I think with every platform we used, like ChatGPT, Canvas, and the PowerPoint, it required a different way of us thinking, like about the design and the user interaction. We had to iterate our design time and time again. We had to take results and look at our prompt time and time again. So in a way, I believe we became prompt engineers, but there is a better way to become better prompt engineers, and that's to use more platforms. And yeah.
Great, great. Yeah, I wish I had spent a little bit more time at the beginning showing you each of the tools and how I have all of them open in a single browser window. Each tab is a different tool, and I wish I had maybe shown a little bit more um, how prompt designing is you got it by the end, but I think I could have done more to help you at the beginning with the prompt design, and also maybe the um, uh, document designs and the workflow designs, how you can use AI. When you're doing a big document, you have to break it up into parts and reassemble it. And using multiple tools on the different parts gives you, like you can ask one, give me a concrete example from this perspective. And you can ask another one, give me a concrete example from this other perspective. And sometimes that will give you something much, much better than if you just did one prompt and just used one tool. Using multiple prompts, multiple tools, as several of you said, you're going to get out what you put in, and you don't want it to dumb you down. You want it to make you smarter. So you want to work hard with multiple tools and also the workflow design. So yeah, I think I could have front loaded that a little bit more, and then maybe you would have jumped on the AI first. So that's how I might have done things differently. But Adam, I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah.
Did
I
you want
think
to add some more?
Yeah, I think even as we moved through the project, new forms of AI came out, like DuckDuck AI, the one you mentioned to us.
Yep.
Maybe some of those we could have looked at, or maybe for the future considerations, because each of them, I think, has their own benefit.
Yeah, yeah. And that just reminded me of one other thing I would have done different. I would have really pushed the GitHub on you and shown you my GitHub and how I put things on GitHub. And because really, GitHub is the future. It's got like so much code, And even if you're not a programmer, like you said, Caitlin, don't be intimidated by the code, because you can ask these AIs, you can show it the input and output, and you can say, please write a Python program for this, and it will do it. And sometimes if it's small enough, it'll actually be right. And then, if you've got some member of your team, because again, don't use AI just alone, use it as a team where different people are, maybe somebody has a little more expertise on the programming side, maybe somebody else has a little bit more expertise in something else. That's really what I think you'll get the most out of it. And, GitHub looks really good on your resume when you're looking for jobs, by the way. So, in fact, at IBM, when we were hiring into our open source group, my VP would always say, I don't care that you write code, but you have to be able to use GitHub and at least read the documentation around the code so you know what code is out there and what it might do. So that's something else I might have emphasized. Well, great job. So we're in the wrap up. I'll post this recording to the blog. I will post the white paper to the blog when that's done. I'll give you your digital certificates. I think actually I have to turn in a few things to wrap up, but great job, team. High five, virtual high five. And thank you for all the hard work you've put in. And I think you really came out with some great stuff. So again, thanks a lot. And I'll stop the recording